Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to the SFC interviews here with Steve Berry today, former Stevenage skipper, of course. So, first of all, how's things, Steve? And it's a very difficult time for everyone through the COVID pandemic at the moment. So, how have you been through that? And of course, you're living over in France, over in Paris at the moment. So, that's somewhere that you kind of reside in, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I've been in France 15 years now, in fact, and I've been based in Paris. But I have where I'm calling from now, or where I'm speaking to you from now, is my home in kind of the Loire Valley, which is about 2 or 3 hours south of Paris. So it's been my home and my office now for the last year. I think, like everybody, we've been restricted to working from home and doing the best we can. So I pop up and down to Paris occasionally, but most of my time is spent here. Very different, as you can imagine, from being in the city to being in the countryside. But in terms of what I do for my work, it doesn't really make a great deal of difference.
Okay, and of course we'll get into your time with the football club, and we'll go back to, as we just said there, 25 years ago. And what was it about Stevenage, in regards to you deciding to join up with a football club?
I think it was kind of timing and luck, if anything. I'd be playing overseas, and I'd played in the Bundesliga in Germany for a season, and then 3 years in China, based out of Hong Kong. And I think I was 32, 33 years old. I came back into the UK after being away for quite some time, and had decided that I wanted to play semi-professionally whilst I was young enough, to start training and learning a new career. And that's how it happened. And through an introduction of Graham Carr, who was my ex-manager at Northampton Town. I think he knew Paul Fairclough. He recommended me to Paul. I had a quick call with Paul. He invited me down for pre-season training, and quite honestly, I knew nothing about Stevenage Borough at that time. So I came down, I did the training, and I was kind of traveling, an hour and a half from my home to do this. And I quite enjoyed the atmosphere. I enjoyed the people I met. I got along well with Paul, and very quickly we developed a strong rapport. I think the team that we had at the time was very exciting. A lot of good youngsters, and they maybe needed an older head and experience to come in and maybe be a bit more of a calming influence on the pitch, and also in the dressing room. So I think it suited everybody. The positioning and the timing was great, and of course, as it turned out, we won the league by quite a margin that year. So it was a lot of luck and a really enjoyable time.
And you made your debut for the club in a local derby as well, at home to Hitchin Town. And what were the experiences like of those derbies? Of course, Hitchin being the main one, with them just being a few minutes down the road.
Yeah, again, as I said, I didn't know a lot about the local rivalries, and you had Hitchin, you had St Albans, you had a few different clubs in the area, but that added a little bit of spice to the games. I mean, it was in some respects, it's a shame that we didn't have anybody actually in the league that was close by to us at that time in terms of local rivalry.
Yeah,
but yeah, it was fun. It was nice, and it was it adds that little bit extra atmosphere to a game. So yeah, it's good fun.
And of course, when you signed, that was your debut against Hitchin, a 3-0 victory as well. And that was a catalogue, as you said there, really, for what turned out to be a brilliant season of from going up and winning the league, and realistically, what should have been a promotion.
Yeah, I mean, it was frustrating for everybody. I think that we had a team that not only won the conference, but I think would have held its own in the what was the old 4th division at the time, or the League Two now. I think we'd have, as you often see, you see a lot of teams come up from the conference and then breeze through that league and go up and get promoted again the following year. And I think we had all the ammunition in our team to have done that. To have then been told that we weren't allowed to be promoted because of, I think, ground restrictions and such like. Yeah, disappointing, but we knew the rules, and we hadn't got the work completed in time, from what I understand. So we had to accept our fate.
Okay, and of course, when you come, to the club, you as I said, made that debut against Hitchin there. And when did you know you'd be involved in the lineup? Was that something you knew straight away, or was it something that you kind of knew maybe just a day or two before the game?
No, I think you get a sense, and gone through most of the pre-season and been involved in most of the games. I think I can't remember now when. I mean, it's a long time ago now, but when Paul told me I would be playing, but I think it was a number of days beforehand. I think he was looking at that balance of having someone like myself again with Paul Barracliff and a few of the other younger players around me or whatever, so that they would give that energy and dynamism and hopefully my experience in kind of keeping the ball and bringing people into the game. So I think it was almost from the start things seemed to click, and I was quite confident and assured that I'd be starting. How long I'd stay in, I guess, was depending on performances, but I was lucky enough to remain in the team for most of the season.
Yeah, 100%. And you scored a couple of goals in that time as well. You got 2 goals, both in victories as well. The Rosewarne away, the 8-0 Macclesfield home, which is the 4-0 win as well. And the 8-0, I'm pretty sure, remains even to this day as the club's highest, scoring win.
Yeah, I mean that was a shame actually, because I think the manager following that 8-0 defeat got relieved of his job. But we had goals in that team from lots of different players. But I mean, Barry Hales was on fire, and with him up front, I think in any team, even if you play a defensive method on the break, you've always got a chance that you're going to nick a goal or two. And as it kind of transpired in that game, I mean, we were all over them, and him at the kind of the cutting edge of our team. I mean, he was brilliant, and no surprise he went on and did what he did in his career. But back then, I mean, he was a little bit more raw, but he was so hungry for goals. And with him up front, it's no surprise we scored a lot of goals.
100%. And of course, we were actually denied promotion there. And yourself, as captain, being denied captain, the captain in the side to the Football League as well. But how did it feel to actually lead that group and to actually go on and achieve what you did achieve at the time at the club that you were there? The first spell, anyway, that is.
Yeah, I was, I was, it was a privilege to lead the team, and to be seen as a leader both on and off the pitch, as I mentioned before. But I felt, very complimented that Paul gave me the captain's armband. I hadn't been known earlier in my career for leading teams as a younger player in the league, so it was a really nice mantle to have, and then to go on and win as we did, and win, as it was in the end, quite comfortably. Yeah, it was a treasured memory. Yeah, it was great. I think the younger players in the team used to take the mickey out of me as the old head, and all my stories on the bus home and away when we used to have some long trips in those days. But no, it was a lovely bunch of guys. I think a talented group of footballers. But the thing that sticks in my mind was they all had a real desire and a very strong attitude to improve and develop. And that makes it for me as an older player, an ex-league player, but certainly for Paul, your job much easier when you've got people who want to learn and want to develop and want to train hard, and the attitude was first class.
And of course, you mentioned there was a couple of names that you mentioned, but there were so many fantastic players in that squad. The likes of Des Gallagher in goal, Smudger, Soji, Richard Nugent, Kenny Webster, Crawshaw, Barry Hales, Richard Wilmot, Dave Venables. The list is endless. I could be reading off names, probably for the majority of the day.
Yeah, there was as I said, I think we all kind of peaked that year in some respects, given our different responsibilities in the team. Barry was scoring goals left, right, and centre. Soji, as raw as he was a colossus at the back. In terms of his energy and his athleticism, and same for Smudger, by the way. That pairing I don't think has ever really been bettered. But then you had, I think Robbie Mutchell came into the team at left back, hadn't really been around much, but a young player. We had Kenny Webster right back, powerhouse, great going forward, attacking player. And it was a team that was really, really, built on attack and all-out attack, if you like. But yet we had some steel in the team as well. We had some players who were really tough. Paul Barracliff in midfield was a energy, but also put his foot in and win the ball and whatever. And Dave Venables, would come up with various tricks down the wings and chip in with his goals as well. And I think it was later in the season, we brought a couple of new players in and lost a few. But I think those new players came in only complemented as well. I think Richard Nugent moved on. I'm trying to remember some of the other lads now that didn't stay for the whole season, but they all played their part.
I've got plenty of names here for you. There's Phil Simpson, Sean Marshall, Tony Lynch, Stuart Beaver, Corey Brown. There's loads more as well. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't do them a disservice. They all contributed an awful lot that year. It was a real team effort, and I think the team didn't pick itself week in, week out. There was clearly a few stalwarts, so you would say, in the team, but Paul was quite clever with the way he would keep players fresh, especially the younger players. When they'd been into the team for 3, 4, 5 games, he would ease them out and bring back in some other players. So we had a good squad, and you only win a league with a good squad. So thanks for reminding me of some of them. I'm getting old on memory.
All right, that's perfectly fine. And so when you left the club, you moved on to Kettering there, as you said before, off stream to have a player role, and then you went on and you were player manager for a while with them as well before returning to the club in 1998, 1999. And was that an easy decision to make, sort of coming back to Stevenage?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't such an easy decision to leave. I mean, we'd been denied, obviously, promotion, which was, as I said, it was disappointing, but not surprising. And I had some really good offers: Rushden and Diamonds, Kettering Town, even Macclesfield, and different clubs were interested in me following captaining, the championship-winning side. And I was a free agent. So the Kettering choice was one based on football reasons. I like Gary Johnson, the manager. I like what he was there. A few of ex-Stevenage players had gone there. Tony Lynch, Richard Nugent, some of the guys that you'd mentioned. And I was working kind of a lot of hours full time in my first job in my life, in fact, in recruitment.
Yeah.
So the Kettering was kind of 20 minutes down the road from where I lived and worked. Made sense, and you have to make some of those decisions in semi-professional football, as it was for me. So I regretted leaving in a way, but I went and had 2 years at Kettering, which was an experience, I have to say. but having managed a club, and while you're a player, it's quite difficult, and it was a club that was struggling financially. So when that came to an end 2 years later, when Paul called me and said, "Look, would you come back?" It was a no-brainer. I didn't talk to anybody else. I just said, "Yeah, where do I sign?"
Okay, fair enough. That's a great answer there. And you mentioned Paul Fairclough. You talked his name up a couple of times. And what was he like to play under and train under as a manager? And sort of what did you learn off of Paul as well?
Paul was very organised. Very detailed. He knew what he wanted. I think he knew the style in which he wanted to play. I think he was great with the young players, giving them a platform to develop very quickly. But with me personally, he was very hands-off. I think he got to know me quite quick, and I think he trusted me that I was, professional, that I was going to be, hopefully a calm leader of his players on the pitch, in the same style in how he would manage off the pitch. He was quite a calm, even-tempered manager who, as I said, his organisation was brilliant. His attacking philosophy was really exciting, and people kind of, bought into that. And at that time also, he had a number 2, Paul Peterson, who was really important, I think, as well, who was a real heartbeat in the dressing room. Good fun, very enthusiastic, very upbeat, and that's kind of an abiding memory, was that the attitude and the enthusiasm and the drive and the hunger that this club had fostered in the young players there was quite something, and it proved very successful.
And of course, there's no surprise that Paul Fairclough went on and he managed the side there for the Newcastle Cup run as well, where we knocked out a couple of Football League sides, and then Swindon at the first division, and then obviously got the lucrative game against Newcastle. And even in that game, we were unfortunate against Newcastle, especially down here, not to beat them.
Yeah, well, I watched the game at home that was televised, and that was really exciting. I wish I'd been part of it, of course. I actually went to the game at Newcastle with my chairman at Kettering. Drove all the way up, and it was nice because the chairman at Kettering used to be vice chairman at Newcastle United, so we were quite well looked after. But it was a really exciting evening, and so close. Huh? I'm still not sure that spearheader was over the line, but there we go.
Well, I think it's been proven with the goal line technology and all of that now that it actually wasn't. So
And I was about to say, without that technology at the time, who knows? But yeah, I mean, it really put Stevenage on the map. I think winning the league when I was there, having had a great run through the leagues to get to that point was making a lot of people sit up and take notice. But I think those 2 Newcastle games really, really put the spotlight on Stevenage, and it was very much deserved because they really acquitted themselves well in both games.
Absolutely, yeah. And of course, in your second spell, there were some real fantastic players in that spell as well. The likes of Robin Trott and Carl Alford were there at that point, and the likes of Michael Love as well, Ryan Kirby, Jimmy Strauss, the likes of Paul Thompson as well, guys like that, Lee Howarth, Dominic Naylor, yeah.
It was there was quite a lot of change. There wasn't a lot of players still around from my first spell. I think the style had changed slightly. I think there were a more experienced group. Some of those players had also stepped out of the league as well, but nevertheless a very talented group as well. And we were right up there. And I can't remember the circumstances as to why Paul was relieved of his duties, but we were in the mix. We were in the top 2 or 3 at the time, pushing for promotion.
I think we were third in the table when he was relieved. Yeah.
Yeah. But so it was a big surprise, and I said I don't know the circumstances. It's not my place to comment.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
But it didn't really surprise me that we fell away a little bit towards the end of the season. Of course, following my meetings with Richard Hill and understanding he wanted to go in a different direction. I think he didn't really want an older, experienced player like me around when he can give some of his youngsters, an opportunity in the team. Well, that was fine. And after what we kind of was an initial fallout, we both got back onto good terms, and then he allowed me to leave the club because clearly I wasn't going to be the future the following season, and I moved back closer to home again and signed for Rushden and Diamonds.
That's right, moving to Rushden as well. Yeah, of course. But in your spell with Stevenage, as I mentioned there, the second spell wasn't as successful, but there's some good players in there nonetheless. And, I'm sure even going back to, about 11 years ago now, when the club actually went on and achieved the promotion, that was something that I'm pretty sure you would have been very pleased to see.
No, very, very much so. And it had been a long time coming. And it was really deserved. And I'd still kept in touch with a few people on the commercial. Clive Avery was a good friend of mine. In contact, and he was one of the first persons I turned to and congratulated after all the hard work they've been doing over the years to finally reach to become a league standard football club was important for the town, for all the work that had gone in on those preceding years and the disappointments that they felt in the past, especially the year I was there. So no, it was really encouraging to see, and of course I look out for all the results of all the league clubs I played for now, including Stevenage, of course.
Yeah.
Last seasons I've seen them struggling a little bit, but holding their own and staying in the league, which is really, really important. So it's a club I follow closely.
And of course, we mentioned in regards to that season, and of course Mark Roberts captained the side that season because it was Graham Wesley in charge. And you mentioned before that the clubs tend to go on a little bit of a rise, and Stevenage did exactly that as well. They went on and got promoted from League 2 into League 1, and on the back of that, they reached the playoffs in League 1 as well, and were only a couple of games away from being potentially a championship side.
Imagine that now. That wouldn't have been a story, huh? I mean,
yeah.
It was confusing. But yeah, I mean, it's almost like that unknown package when you come up from the conference. Clubs in the league have been playing each other regularly over the years, but when these clubs come up, they don't. I think sometimes it's underestimated what they can bring to the league, but also that pure hunger that a lot of the players hadn't played at the league level before, so they bring a little bit of an extra edge, an unknown, and they often do well in that first year, and it's important to do well in that first year and at least consolidate your place in the league. But as you say, a lot do much better than that and get promoted in the first attempt, which has proved the case many times over. But now I've seen, you start to see the clubs maybe level out somewhat and get to a level within the league that probably befits the size of the club, the support and the finances and such like.
Yeah.
That's where Stevenage should be right now. I'd like to see them back up in the first division and to continue to develop. but it takes time.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And as I said before, when Graham was in charge, and of course he left to go off to Preston because he got a better offer on the table there to move to there. And Gary Smith come in, and that was I think when Graham left, we were flying in League One, and we could have even gone on and probably got automatics if Graham was to stick around at that point. But of course he wanted to move up a division, and fair play to him on that. You can't hold that against him.
No, you can't. And and Preston, I mean, Preston North End has its unique history and place in the Football League, and its history, and Stevenage as a league club is still developing that, and that will come, of course, with time. But can you deny someone the opportunity to go to a club of that stature and that size and that history? Possibly not. It's a shame that it didn't happen with Stevenage, with him, I guess. But we'll never know. But yeah, you can't really blame him.
No, absolutely. So what have we got on here now? So of course, the club, have been very active during the pandemic in the local community as well, with helping out the local residents, and that's a fantastic thing that Stevenage are doing there. It's a really good way of keeping the bond with the supporters and the players and the manager and everybody alive. And it's been a hard time for everyone, so to have the football club out there supporting and helping was exceptional. Yeah.
Well, no, that's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, I'm not local any longer. I'm no longer in the UK, so I don't really see that side of what's going on. But it's good to hear. And the one thing that again, with abiding memories, it was that we were very connected to the town, to the local community. Even when I was there, and I wasn't a Stevenage lad, I wasn't from the area, but you could sense that there was a link there, and there was a strong connection with the supporters and the fans, and as I said, the community. So that doesn't surprise me to hear that, and it's good to hear as well. Yeah,
absolutely, and of course. The club have remained a Football League club as well. It's been, I think it's 10 years a Football League club now. In fact, I think it's even longer than that now on the back of this season as well. And of course, this season we've got Alex Ravel in charge, who is this is his first managerial role, and he's got the help of Dean Wilkins and Mark Sampson, who have been there and done it a bit more, sort of either at the men's level or the women's level with Mark as well. And the job they've done this season to comfortably get the side away from danger on the back of what last season was a really difficult time for the football club, where, of course, we were kept up by the reprieve of Macclesfield, to be where we are this season and have absolutely no danger of relegation at all. And probably I will finish comfortably mid-table as a big, improvement on last year.
Yeah, and I bet everybody's breathing a sigh of relief as well, because that was when I was quite disappointed to see where the club was and how things transpired. But look, you take your chances, and it looks like now more structure, some more experience. I don't know the people personally, but I know their background, so it certainly looks now like they're in a much stronger position. As I say, if you can consolidate that league status, stay mid-table this year, and then build from there again, then that's good news. Yeah, definitely. And of course, next season, you never know, the club might be able to push on for a playoff place or something like that. And of course, now that the new stand has been completed, the north stand as well, with the development of that, so that's going to be great when the fans are back in, because you can get more people into the stadium, and it'd be great when the side are attacking that end as well now. Well, I haven't seen the new stand. I've been when the one of the new stands have been completed from when I had played there. I haven't seen. So I'd love to come back at some point, because it's been a long time since I was back in the UK. Never mind coming to see a football match. But what will the capacity be with the new stands completed?
So it was, what was it before? It was about 7,500. So I think it takes it up to about 10,000 now. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. And there was always a nice atmosphere, at Broadhall Way. I don't know what that's called anymore, but I guess the atmosphere is generated by a successful team, a team that's hopefully winning trophies or winning promotions, and that makes it that bit extra special. But there was always a nice homely atmosphere at Stevenage. But I'd love to see what it's like when it's completed, and see if they're pushing again for promotions and some success, what the difference will be. So I'll need to come back at some point.
Absolutely, yeah, and I'm sure you'll be welcome with open arms as well. And It's as I said, it's a 10,000 capacity stadium now, with the main stand, the away stand, now the north stand as well, and the east terrace, which is the terrace as well. And that's something that I'm sure you would love playing in front of that terrace and getting the support there from the Barmy Army.
Yeah, well, I remember the east terrace very well, and that was I think where most of the noise was generated when I was there. Now it was
the same case, still the same way. Yeah,
it's good to hear. No, they were great, and supporters can be fickle at most clubs, but I always found at Stevenage, certainly the year where we got promotion, it was constant, it was consistent, and they were very kind to me and very supportive of me, and very very helpful to the rest of the team as well. And I think they appreciated a lot of the young fellas in there. When they made mistakes, it was through honest mistakes, and it was real endeavour and real work ethic that they had. So no, it was a really nice kind of chemistry between the team and the supporters back then. I'm sure it's the same now.
Yeah, 100% is, and so of course now it's even more. Not just with the new stand as well, but Phil, being the chairman that Phil is, has done exceptional stuff in regards to getting the lucrative Burger King sponsorship deal and other deals with like the FIFA game franchise and things like that as well, and sort of streamers, and kind of getting the club's name out there, and that is great, especially when you look at the catchment area where we are as well, with the teams that we're competing against in the Premier League and higher up the Football League pyramid. Yeah,
no, certainly. Yeah, Phil Wallace, yes.
Yeah.
To Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's, how long has he been there now, Phil? I mean, he's been there 20 years as chairman?
Maybe a little bit more, yeah.
Because I remember when I'd come back to Stevenage and then left again, and I think subsequently Richard Hill at some point then moved on, and they were looking for a new manager, and I did come and speak to him, with little experience having been a player manager at Kettering, but having been an ex-Stevenage player and had a little bit of experience, I came back and spoke to Phil and the board, and it was clear that I wasn't the right man for the job. I hold my hand up and accept that.
Fair enough. Yeah.
It would have been more on, as being an ex kind of player and a bit of nostalgia, really, and that wouldn't have been the right decision for me or for the club, by the way.
Yeah.
And then the Graham Wesley years came, and there was a lot of things happened within the club that I wouldn't have been qualified to have brought at that time. So it was a pleasure to have met him and then to have been considered. But I think it was the right decision, and clearly that's been proved right because they had a lot of success thereafter.
And of course, it's not just league success either. It's FA Cup success, as we mentioned, FA Trophy success as well, and being the first side to go to the new Wembley and lift the trophy there, and certainly doing it the hard way on the back of being 2-0 down at half time as well under Mark Stimson.
Yeah, I mean, again, I was watching from afar, but it was great to see the silverware that would continue, if you like. I think the cups are great, and it's great occasions to play at Wembley. And I was very fortunate in my time as a pro to have played in a Wembley Cup final as well. And those memories you can never take away. I mean, they are wonderful, wonderful, abiding memories, whether you win or lose. It's nice if you win, by the way. But we
won't say much about it. I know it was your days with Sunderland, wasn't it? The League Cup final, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was a great day just because of the occasion, but not so much for the football. But But going back to Stevenage, I mean, I the cups are great, as I said, but I'd like to see, and I think everybody would see, a sustained push to get promotion each year, whatever league they're playing in, and avoid and keep away from, the bottom of the league where there's always the anxiety, the panic, the worry, that goes with being a team that's in trouble. So, to echo your words, it's good to see that they'll hopefully finish, mid-table this year without any worries about going down, and they can even start planning now for, the campaign next year and the following few years.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, with Alex Ravel, a young manager at the helm with a bit more experience in Dean Wilkins and Mark Sampson as well, I'm sure that will be sort of set him in good stead. And John Ashton's there as well, who was centre back for the Newcastle game when we knocked out Newcastle in the FA Cup, and he was part of that side that went on and won the promotions as well. So it's a good head to have around the place.
Yeah, I think it's nice to have that level of experience and knowledge of the club. as well, and the history of the club.
Ronnie Henry as well, because Ronnie's now working with the under-18. So
I know, super, yeah. And I know that the academy, or the Stevenage Academy, which started way back when I was there, was really trying to, competing with a lot of the big clubs that are not that far away in terms of the catchment area for the young kind of upcoming talent. So that always had a very strong reputation as well. So now that's good to see. But it's having all that experience and that knowledge and that know-how kind of in the dressing room is important in the dugout. But ultimately, it's about players, and bringing in the young, hungry players that are going to strive and push for the promotions and the cup competitions. Is what it's all about. That's what the fans want to see. I think Stevenage fans over the last 25 kind of to 30 years have seen a lot of good things happening at the club. A lot of development at the club. They've become league now, established league status, and as you say, having lots of exciting FA Cup runs. It's it must be great to be a young Stevenage supporter these days.
Yeah, definitely. And even somebody of my sort of age, sort of mid-30s and things like that, it's still great because we've seen enough good times. And, there's with Alex and that now, there's plenty more to come, no doubt as well. I'm sure that will be a successful, campaign, whether it be next season or in the next few seasons. But we've certainly got that building block now on the back of, a much better season. Yeah.
Yeah. No, fingers crossed. As I said, that's what the fans want to see. I think there's been a lot of high points over the last 20, 25 years, as we've mentioned, and likely it continue. But I think the league status, preserving that league status is vitally important. You've seen so many league clubs and old established league clubs coming down into the conference and not recover, and end up even going down the pyramid even further, which is a real shame when I think about, your Chesters and all these different clubs or whatever. It's a shame to see their demise, if you like. But I think Stevenage has a real opportunity now to consolidate that place and push on. So, let's hope you do it.
And we've got a comment here from Jordan as well. He says, it's so great to see the progression in Stevenage over the years. It's really inspiring to see. And of course, Jordan, Jordan himself is a young, up-and-coming manager. He's got his own sort of seven-a-side team that he runs, and he's sort of helping out with a team a little bit lower down the pyramid in sort of the non-league as well now. So that's great there, and he's had plenty of words of encouragement himself from big name players, managers, and the like. So that's great to hear. And this kind of brings me on to another question I was going to ask you anyway. And what advice would you give to somebody maybe like a Jordan who is just getting into the game and from a managerial side or even a playing side as well, and wants to kick on a little bit? Yeah.
Oh wow! That's a question you could answer in many different ways. I think one of the biggest ones is to you need that intrinsic talent. Okay, so obviously that ability and whatever. But I've seen many highly skilled, highly talented players not break through into a first team or into league football or whatever because for some reason or they haven't had the right attitude or the right application, or they weren't coachable or they weren't humble or whatever. So I would say, alongside your talent, be grounded, you work hard, you listen, you take on board the good advice, you remain open to development and learning. And if you have those attributes or those softer skills aligned to a real talent for the actual game in whatever position you play or whether it's managing, then that will stand you in good stead, and you should find you'll be able to achieve your ambitions. At what level you'll reach, I don't know, but I think all the great players and great managers have always had that humbleness about them, where they're coachable, where they'll learn and they'll listen, and they'll take on board the right advice and support. Recognizing where that comes from is important too, but I think you need to have the right attitude and the right hunger. Yeah,
that's a fantastic answer. And Jordan's based in Essex, and he's won some local awards for the work he's done over there as well. So he's very, certainly has a passion for the game, and he loves football, and he just loves being out there on the touchline and seeing the boys develop and kind of improve. Yeah.
Yeah, you used the word there that I didn't use, and it's vitally important. You passion. You have to have a real passion to towards your sport, whether it's through your work, your learning, your application, your hunger, your desire, whatever you want to call it. But I think if you've got a passion that is natural within you, you've always got a chance.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And he's just said thank you for that as well. He's certainly taken those words on board. So we'll move on to your time sort of out of football now a little bit as well. When you kind of moved out of football after making over 600 appearances, in a number of different clubs that you were there, and moved into market research, and then setting up your own company and coaching ex-professional sports men and women as well. Upon their retirement, sort of transitioning their careers, their lives, and what's the kind of stuff you do there with them, and kind of how did that all come about as well?
Well, I mean, the work that I did at the market research company as well as other companies has been kind of headhunting recruitment.
Right.
I've done lots of different kind of generalist recruitment jobs over the past, and I remember when I was at Stevenage, I was working in industrial recruitment. I've never been so tired in my life, working a lot of hours and on call all night, as well as playing at quite a high level.
Yeah, of course, because you were part-time. Yeah.
So that was a bit of a shock, having been a full-time player playing out in China. It was like being on holiday for 3 or 4 years, but it was needed to do. But very quickly, I think I learned, and I listened, and I was coachable, and I took on board what I had to do to grow my second career, to the point where I became an exec search consultant on an agency side. Then I joined clients, a company called Ipsos, a global market research company, as their global director of recruitment, which I was very honored to and privileged to have been offered. So having naturally kind of been in the recruitment world, you help people find jobs, you help them with their careers. Often they come back to you because they trust you to talk where their career is blocked or they're not getting promoted, they want to move company again. So naturally I learned those kind of skills, and then I qualified as an executive coach, as a life coach and a career coach. So that was all part of the job. But one of the areas where I really wanted to apply that was helping ex-footballers, or certainly ex-athletes, professional sports people, how they then kind of redefine their goals and their ambitions when they come to retire from the professional sport. Because most, if you look at it on average, it's anywhere between the kind of ages of 28 to 33, 35 when most of them retire. Yeah. Whether or just the fact that they're not at their best physical prowess any longer. And often it's a very difficult transition to make, because we've all given up any kind of education or any kind of secondary education for our sports. Generally you start at 14, 15, 16 years of age. So most of us don't have the kind of qualifications or education that you need then to sustain your life thereafter. And you finish football, maybe you've got families and you've got children and all sorts to provide for. And it's a really tough time, and you've seen many players get into extreme difficulties where they can't find their way, and often they fall into the extreme cases, into alcoholism or drug addiction or whatever it may be, gambling, whatever it is, to try and sustain a high of being a footballer, but also try and make money quickly, if you like. So I think there was a lot of work needed doing in this area, and I was disappointed with the Professional Footballers Association weren't doing enough, or weren't making it tailored enough for the individual. So, I tried and got involved in doing that kind of work alongside my main job over the last kind of 7 or 8 years.
And that's great that you're still remaining involved in sport as well, and helping people to transition sort of in sort of that capacity and life capacity as well as sport capacity. So what have we got on here now? That kind of goes on nicely to my next question as well, really, and that's sort of how important is it for ex-sports personalities to sort of look after themselves upon leaving the career that they chose, whether that's, football, whether it's rugby, cricket, athletics, boxing, whatever it may be, and that's sort of from the physical and the mental side,
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy, and the advice differs depending on the individual, of course, but often players will get out of the routine of training, the habit of being in a regimented kind of environment. It's a little like, I can make a comparison with coming out of the armed forces. It's a transition people make, but they're used to being in a regimented, very
sort of structures.
Structured life, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you come out of that, you lose that. You feel cast adrift. You feel isolated, and then you do let your habits kind of they drop off, or you're probably not training any longer, so your body starts to decline, if you like, or you're not in the same shape. And I think if you're not in that right shape, then I think also mentally it's very tough as well, and it's very difficult. A lot of players, don't like to ask for help or to admit vulnerable or worried or anxious about their future. So rather than have a forum where they can open up and talk about it, they bottle it up and turn sometimes to other vices, which is kind of very destructive.
Yeah.
I try to make it more positive because there's a whole exciting life out there following your career. We give up what we're passionate about. We give up what we love and whatever, but it doesn't mean to say we can't find another thrilling, exciting opportunity, outside of football or even within the game, but in a different capacity. I think that's the kind of help I give is giving people that understanding of where to explore that, what are their capabilities, what's their personality best suited to, what kind of opportunity could be out there in the market for them, and then help them get that, whether that's through any training or any companies that will offer the development opportunities or whatever, because often, footballers are full of fun. They're collaborative. They work great in a team. They are used to tough times. They are very, very durable, if you like. They have this stamina and this resistance to lots of things that happen in your football career, which really arms you well for a career in anything else you want to choose. But you've got to understand what those attributes are, the softer skills, if you like, with a bit of or a bit of development in a certain product or a service. These people can really have big second careers if they apply themselves, but they've got to know how to do it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You're able to do that, and I'm sure you've already helped plenty of people to kind of get them back onto a good way of life again. So we'll go sort of a little bit off key now, and it still remains sort of in the game. But how important a part do the fans play in helping the teams as well? Of course, the fans at the moment are unable to be a part of the game. They're unable to be in the ground. Although yesterday, in fact, I did see a few fans at the League Cup final between Tottenham and Man City, which was great to see. But of course, for clubs, it's going to certainly play a part not having the fans there. And if they've got the fans in the stadium, then they can really kick on and possibly, a side like Stevenage who are mid-table, if the fans are in there, they could help them, push into that playoff position. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and we've all missed. That atmosphere and that support and that drive that the terraces and the fans give the players. This is going to sound a little bit strange, maybe. I've kind of lost a bit of interest over this last year watching football because it's like watching training sessions.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And I guarantee you, most players, myself included, we hate training through the week, but you look forward to the games because that's when the real stuff happens. That's where this atmosphere is generated by the crowd, by the expectation, by the fear sometimes that you're going to lose or that you're not going to play well. And that edge, if you like, that the fans give the game has been lost, of course. And I think the edge in terms of the actual quality of the football and the level of football that we've been seeing has declined a little bit. Maybe that's my opinion watching from afar, and I watch a lot of Premiership football. But I'm a Liverpool supporter, by the way, so I know what it's like to be at Anfield. On a
European match. Yeah.
You cannot replicate that without fans. It's impossible. So we've lost a lot, I think, to the game this year. And listen, it's nothing compared to what a lot of other people have had to cope with in terms of the pain that this pandemic has caused. But yeah, I think football suffered. I think a lot of people are suffering with it, and we're just kind of waiting for it to get back to normal. And it looks like it's starting to open up again, which is great news, because I think it's been a bit of a non-event over the last year or so. I really do, but that's my own opinion, by the way. But yeah, it plays a huge part, the fans, a huge part.
And of course, being a Liverpool fan, of course, I'm sure you'll be delighted to see them win the title last season as well, on the back of quite a while now as well since they last won it. And I won't mention this season because, of course, this season they've slumped a little bit, but last season it was certainly a good time to be a Liverpool fan. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a good example actually. If you want to think about Liverpool, 2 seasons ago, Champions League final the year before that, won the league last year, and although the season was kind of almost halted somewhat, I think Liverpool was so far ahead of the rest. I mean, it would have been a travesty if we hadn't finished the league last year and they hadn't been crowned champions.
Definitely, yeah.
I think that their standards have dropped, and I think their level of intensity, hasn't been as good this year. I think partly because of the pandemic and the fact that there's no fans, and it's been a bit of a leveler for everyone. I mean, I'm not making excuses for them, because I think they haven't really, as reigning champions, probably defended their title as well as we expected. But again, I think it's just been a bit of a non-event this year for football. So, I can't wait for it to get back to normal. I hope it does very soon. Especially we got the European Championships. We're going to be hosting a lot of games as well. So
England, yeah.
That can only, the excitement can only be increased by having, passionate fans in the stadium or the stadio, cheering on their own teams and ranting against the opposition. I mean, it's normal. It's what we kind of live for, and that's what football's about, and that's what it should be.
Yeah, most definitely. So we've got a couple more questions on there. I don't know what I'm going to ask and hinge at in regards to how many. But you said you were a Liverpool fan. So who were your own sort of personal inspirations growing up? Sort of, maybe from sort of probably Liverpool days.
Liverpool days. I mean, my idol was Graham Souness.
Yeah.
I was skipper of Liverpool. I'm winning European Championships and such like back in the early '80s, and I was fortunate. I started at Portsmouth, and I played against Souness and that great Liverpool team. I remember in a pre-season friendly. Then I was at Sunderland. I played at the home and away legs against Liverpool. Yeah. So that was a dream come true. He as a Liverpool captain was my idol, but my most favourite was the captain. I shouldn't say this. Liverpool supporters would hate me, but the captain of Man United, Brian Robson.
Okay. Yeah.
In terms of an all-round player, and a leader. For me, he's probably one of the best I've seen, and I was fortunate to play against him as well when he was at Man United, and had a real fight on the day. We were fortunate to run out 3-2 winners at Sunderland. That was a game that remains in my memory for the pure, the glamour of beating that glamour club. But he was awesome. He was brilliant.
So we've got another question here that I wanted to ask in regards to a young up-and-coming player at Stevenage, Jack Smith, who has now started playing in central midfield. Has been exceptional in the last 3 games, and in fact, he plays your position as a centre mid as well. As a product of the youth system, and he's broken through. Keenan Davis at Villa as well, who scored the equalising goal yesterday. In their game was a Borough youth as well. And how important is that for clubs like Stevenage to either give these players an opportunity or then sell them on for a bit of a profit as well?
Well, it's very important. We talked about the academy earlier. I mean, there's many clubs, I think, at the in the first and second league where the pyramid, the money's all at the top, it seems. And I know it gets kind of filtered down somewhat, but most clubs, outside of the championship, certainly need that lifeblood of generating their own players for nothing, if you like, or relatively nothing, through their youth setups and the scouting systems they have locally. But then, to develop those players into players that the top teams desire and that they want to take them off their hands. And the kind of money that's exchanging hands these days for players is, from my day, is quite astronomical. But that can often, sustain a club for many, many months, that kind of income, outside of what they generate through sponsorship and through, the spectators and such like. So I think it's really important. What's frustrating often is that you see these players take that first move for not so much money, and then the second move after that is huge, and it can be huge.
And that's where Stevenage are good, because Phil will usually put sell-on clauses on. So if a player does move, then they'll get a good heap of money. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was what I was about to say. I mean, any clubs that don't include a sell-on clause must be crazy these days when they negotiate a deal. But nevertheless, I mean, it's income that is often the lifeblood of most of the football clubs, and certainly get down to grassroots levels. That kind of income is kind of unheard of. So you can imagine when you develop a player through your youth systems, they make the grade and play in the league and the first team, and then they get sold on for a lot of money. It's a real bonus for a football club. Real bonus.
Yeah, definitely. And when you've got players coming through like Jack as well, who, has been fantastic. He got 2 man of the matches in his last 2 games before the last one. And the last one, I'm going to mention it because it was a victory over Cambridge where we did the double over them this season. So, as much as they're going to get from rugby, that's a nice thing to have as Stevenage fans to do the double over your rivals. But, Jack's been excellent in the centre of midfield, and there's been others coming through, across the years as well, the likes of Ben Wilmot and George Boyd, guys like that.
Yeah. No, it's good to see, and I think that that needs to be a continual, hopefully, conveyor belt of bringing players through. Often there's a dilemma for managers of football clubs when they want, and they're under such pressure to get results. How do they blood youngsters? And youngsters coming through the system, when is the right time to introduce them into the league? When are they going to be able to contribute enough, in comparison to maybe going out and buying or taking a more experienced player? So it's nice to have a blend. That was one thing that, that I think, Paul Fairclough was very kind of aware of, is that, he had a lot of young players coming through that may just either fall out of the game or move on somewhere else if they weren't going to get an opportunity. Yeah. And I think he blend at the time. I mean, he had some very talented young players as well, by the way. That makes it easier because it makes the decision easier. But I think you need a manager who has an appetite for doing this and bringing the youngsters through, and a philosophy within the club that allows that. And then I think you have that, hopefully you'll have that kind of sustained, influx of youngsters coming through, and they get sold on. Great for their careers, but also great income for the football club.
And with the chairman, Phil Wallace, as he is as well, the club aren't afraid to take a dip into the lower leagues and bring players through as well, has been proved successful with, Steve Morrison, for example.
No, for sure. I mean, there's lots of different avenues that you can explore to bring in the right players into your club, whether it's youth, whether it's experience like me, where you were kind of falling out of the league, if you like, or from the lower leagues where there's an awful lot of talent that's getting pushed down now because of the way the Premiership is. And I'm so glad that Super League thing didn't come off. And that was fans' power for you, by the way. That was speaking volumes for the power that fans have over the game in the UK. But
definitely, yeah.
I think you need to have, your eyes on all different avenues that you can explore to find players that are going to, complement and improve your team and your club.
Yeah, spot on. And that's great that Phil was able to, and the Alex and that are able to dip into the non-leagues and also the academy, as well as, signing experienced players and good players as well from the football leagues.
If I may say, just quickly, if I go back to the year when we won the conference, and you talk about all those players that we've mentioned, many have gone on, have become worth millions, and have had Premiership careers and have played for their countries and all sorts. So if you think back now, that's a great advertisement for a non-league club with these players with such huge potential that went on and actually, realised that potential. So, it doesn't surprise me that rather than the Premierships develop their own teams, and you see the Man Cities and the Liverpools bringing all these players through. But if you go down to the non-leagues and you pick up a Barry Hales, Obisoji and whatever, these guys are there. You just need the eyes and ears and that level of competition to allow you to seek out that, that talent. But there's a lot of talent down there for sure.
And it's happening at a very young age as well. There was a young guy, I think he was only 13 years old, who was just signed for Manchester City from Stevenage last week. Lecky something or other, I can't remember his name. But, even that low down, it's certainly done enough for bigger clubs to take note. And, he's only 13 years old, and, a fantastic worldwide global club have come in and brought him across over to Manchester. So that's a great move for him, and very early in his career as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? 13 years old, huh? I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, there's an argument on when that should happen and when these people should, or when these young players should be signed and taken through. I'm not sure I agree with all of the kind of rules and structure around football when they look at kids at this age. I mean, they haven't developed enough, but since obviously this guy has got talent and they can see that ability, so they can get him into their academies or to youth systems and develop them. I always wonder what it's like for the families and for the youngsters at that age, to be taken away from home and such. Like, I don't know how it works, but from my side, I always think it's a little bit too early, but it depends. I think, at that age, between the ages, 12 and 15, we all mature at different times, and for some it's right, others it's not. But I think they need to be very selective and very careful how they manage that young talent.
Yeah, most definitely. And we've got just one or two more questions, really. And of course, the club have done fantastic in integrating the women's game into it as well now, with the women, now being Stevenage FC women, and actually they're only a fairly new club as well. And they've got the Borough Queen bill, where Borough King have actually gone and they're sponsoring them as well. So it's great to have them involved in the football club, and it's surely going to be fantastic for them as well to link themselves in with the male side of the game too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching from afar over the last 12, 15 years since I've been here in France. So not been so close to the game, but it seems the women's game has come on leaps and bounds. Both in terms of the level of their performances, as well as the interest, and the money involved, and the professionalism and the sponsorship and such like. So, I think it's great that every club will then have their, the link. So you'll have the women's club with the women's team, you'll have the youth teams, you'll have the whole kind of community involved with under that one umbrella of the football club.
Yeah.
But in terms of how far it will go and how much interest it's generating, seems to be endless at the moment. I don't know how far it can go, but I think it's important, and I'm glad to hear Stevenage has a team. I wasn't aware. I tend to, you see the big games or you see the England games that the women's game is showing on TV over here anyway. I don't see the grassroots football, but it's good to hear.
Yeah, they've had a Stevenage women club for a little while now. So they're doing fairly well for themselves as well. And of course, as I mentioned, they've got the same lucrative deal that the men have got as well, with the Borough King and Borough Queen deal as they've gone for, which actually you're seeing quite ironically, the Borough King in the leisure park in Stevenage, so the Rory Meg just by the football ground, that's actually been rebranded as Borough Queen as well, just to kind of link you with the club. Yeah.
That's right. I remember it was just under the underpass, wasn't it? Across from
the
retail park, yeah. Yeah.
So they've put the Borough Queen there, and they've actually got some nice kits and stuff as well that enjoying being a part of, as well as playing for the club as well, of course. And so we've got just a few more, as I said. So are you still in contact with any of your sort of teammates from when you were at Stevenage across the two spells?
No, I'm not. No, gradually it kind of peters out, I guess, over the years. I came back about 12 or 13 years ago for a game. Actually, we played Arsenal, and I think we had the first half was kind of the old kind of league winning team, the conference winning team played the first half. And by the way, it was 0-0 at half time, and then the actual team took the pitch in the second half and lost. So I don't know what that says about us old heads, but it was great because
was that from Paul Fairclough's testimonial then?
Indeed, yeah. And it was great because, of course, they brought Dennis Bergkamp and a few other.
I was there. I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a nice day. It was the last time I was there at Stevenage. I was invited back for that. I think even Des Gallagher flew back from Australia, where he was living at the time, and I flew in from Paris. So that was great to see everybody and to kind of refresh all old acquaintances and such like. But since then, no, I've not. The circles that I kind of socialize in and work in now, is mostly here in France. So I rarely get back to the UK. So I've kind of lost touch a little bit. But yeah, such is life, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. Of course, you move on with the times. So we've touched on the advice side of it as well. So, sort of, have you always been involved in the game, sort of from a young age, sort of at school teams and local district teams and things like that?
Yeah, and I mean, I remember I used to play 6 or 7 games a week. So you play for your school, your district, your own kind of, youth league on a Saturday, pub league on a Sunday with my dad. You couldn't get enough at the time. So yeah, I mean, I've been playing since I can remember. My father was in the Fleet Air Arm, the Royal Navy. So we kind of moved all over when I was a kid, different stations or whatever, and different locations. So everywhere I went, the first thing I'd look for is to join a football club.
Yeah.
What I love, but also gets you to make friends, and you get involved in the community and such like. So if I wasn't able to do that straight away, I'd play with my dad, playing for his various Royal Naval teams. I was good enough when I was able to hold my own. So yeah, I've been involved with it since I can remember. I always loved it. It was my passion. It was something that I was very fortunate to be able to live as a professional, to get paid for playing something you're passionate about. We're really lucky and privileged to be able to do that. And I've never really found that, despite what I've done since the game, in recruitment and coaching and whatever, nothing can replicate the football career. Not only the passion that we have for playing and the enjoyment, the fun, the atmosphere, the opportunities it allows you. It's something I miss.
Yeah, because we've got one more question. This is just the last one, really, and or kind of a little bit of a two-parter, maybe a three-parter. Who would you say the best players that you played with during your career are, and played against, and the best manager that you played under as well?
Best manager would be a guy called, you wouldn't know this guy, a guy called Frank Burrows. He was a guy who gave me my debut at Portsmouth. He also took me to England, a few other clubs. He was at West Brom. He was at other clubs as a coach or whatever. So Frank was undoubtedly my mentor, if you like, in the game. In terms of players, there was loads. I'd say Barry Hales at Stevenage.
Yeah.
Okay. As a up and coming talent that I saw later in my career, that I thought, he's going to go a long way, and he did. But playing with the likes of Clive Walker, ex-Chelsea player at Sunderland, David Hodgson, ex-Liverpool, Barry Venison at Sunderland. There's loads that I could name, by the way, but they were some of the better ones. A lot of your listeners probably won't remember these guys, but they were the ones that I enjoyed playing with and alongside. And then, of course, playing against the likes of Robson and Souness and Whiteside at United and Jesper Olsen and Steve Bruce.
Yeah.
I got fun against Norwich, and Steve Bruce was centre half for them that day, and he was a stalwart, and it was interesting to play against him. But yeah, they're some of the names that kind of stick out in my memory.
And of course, you mentioned there was that Arsenal side as well. There's probably some big names in that Arsenal side. I'm pretty sure you mentioned the likes of Bergkamp and some real international stars in that side as well from sort of later years.
Yeah, I mean that was a pleasure to play on that pitch that day with Arsenal. I think they had Edu. There was I'm just trying to remember some of the other names, but the standout one, of course, was Dennis Bergkamp. And
who else was playing? Was Thierry Henry, anyone like that playing?
No, there was Edu was playing. There was the English international, ginger hair.
Can't
think of his name.
The English. Oh, what was his name?
Ray Parlour.
Yeah.
There was a couple of centre halves that played in the first team that were some foreign nationals as well. But they were the kind of the standout players that they brought up that day, and it was good for Paul.
Was Martin Keown?
No, I don't think Keown was there. It's funny. I was looking at a photo the other day of the two. Both the teams were mingled to have a photo to recognise a number of the players. But it was nice for Paul, because I think Paul had a lot of contact with Arsenal youth teams, and some of the scouts and coaches there. I think he did some work for them in his later years. So
yeah, he has done. Yeah,
a good connection with them. So it was really kind of them to bring a strong team for that game, and it was good fun. More fun meeting everybody again after so long and seeing how fat we've got or how grey our hair's got or whatever. It was nice.
But now we'll wrap it up there, Steve. So thank you very much for taking some time out this afternoon to have this chat, and it's been great to speak to you. Yeah, good to see that you're doing well as well.
No, thanks very much. Thanks for the invite, and obviously fingers crossed that we go on now at Stevenage next season on a bit more of a solid platform and get a little bit more success, so the fans can enjoy watching a team again. Thanks for inviting me.
No, not to worry, and hopefully you're able to get across to England and Stevenage for a game at some point. And yeah, as I said, you'll certainly be welcome with open arms, because obviously you're one of the players there who started off this sort of successful time for the football club with that sort of title win, and it's great that we've gone on and we've kicked on from that. So I'm sure not just yourself, but many of the squad there are delighted to see where the football club has progressed to.
Yeah, brilliant. No, I think everybody's proud of the club and what they've done. When we were proud back then, but they've kicked on, onto different levels since we were there. So it's the right direction. It's what the club should be doing and developing and getting better and better. So it's nice to have played a part in that.
Cheers. Thanks a lot, Steve.
You're welcome. Okay.
Take it easy. Bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.